Still Poddable, still Poddable. Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh yeah! Still Poddable, still Poddable. Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. And a 19.
Beat Rob, Jim, Becca, J. King.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
The Caesar on the court to get another ring.
Still Poddable, still Poddable.
Everybody in the chat now sing.
Still Poddable, still Poddable. Still Poddable, still Poddable. The Boston Celtics, still Poddable, still Poddable. Oh yeah!
Shut your ass up, man.
Daddy's always halfway there.
Welcome back to Still Poddable, the best Celtics podcast on Al Gore's internet. And I was doing some research on Al Gore's internet, and there's a whole Wikipedia article about it. Do you know he was referred to as an Atari Democrat?
That's incredible.
Apparently in the 80s and early 90s, any Democrat who supported the use of technology was called an Atari Democrat. So just a little fun piece of political history there for you. As we are coming to you live on Still Poddable, this is the Poddable postgame show. Celtics just beat down the Chicago Bulls 122-100. Kristaps Porzingis was on fire, ties a career high for most threes in a game. 8 for 14 from beyond the arc, 34 points, 11 rebounds, just a scorcher from him as the Celtics cruise to an easy victory over the Chicago Bulls. This is how it should happen. When you play an inferior opponent, you should just have one of your many stars go off. And I thought the Celtics just had a solid victory tonight. And I as much as Kristaps, his hot shooting was fueled this victory, the Celtics did a great job on the defensive end, especially in transition. They forced 15 turnovers from the Bulls, which led to 27 points. And that's how they really kind of broke this game open in the second quarter, scoring 41 points there. They just really did a much better job of getting their hands up, forcing some bad turnovers for the Bulls, and they got the lead, and then it was pretty much just cruising for the entire second half.
Yeah, and I only caught the second half, so it was a nice, easy, fun game for me. I was at like a client dinner, doing my day job
In beautiful Cleveland.
in beautiful Cleveland, Ohio, which we can save the Cleveland talk for the junk portion, but yeah, this was a great game. I mean, Porzingis was incredible. I caught that. They just kept Chicago just kept doubling Tatum late in the game for reasons I don't understand. But there was that Porzingis Pritchard shot. He logo shot 3, and I was like, okay, so he's feeling it tonight. Like, this has been good. And that's when I was like, all right, let me pull up this box score and really dive in here. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is the Porzingis game for sure.
That's how he ended the game, but that's how he started the game. I think he scored 13 points in the first 5 minutes. I have in my notes just KP getting silly with it. And I do like his that's how it seems like the Celtics start every game is like they run a couple of pick and pops with Kristaps Porzingis. And has had phenomenal first quarters ever since I think it's the past 2 weeks. He seems to be getting in the flow of the game. He also just kind of had a nice end of the first half to kind of balloon this lead up to what was 17 after the half. They led 68-51, and it was just an all-around solid performance from Kristaps. I thought it was a great performance from Jaylen Brown, who he had 28 points tonight, an efficient 10 for 18. For those who caught the episode with Jay and B-Rob and I talking about what I thought the Celtics team needed to do to improve, Jaylen Brown from 2 points was one of my big critiques or things I thought the Celtics could improve upon. And tonight, Jaylen, he made 10 field goals. Only one of them was from 3, so 9 field goals from inside the arc. And I just felt like he did a solid job of getting to the paint and then again getting to the free throw line. Drew 11 free throw attempts, only made 7 of them, but we're not going to denigrate him for that. He also had 6 assists. Celtics had 32 assists tonight. Turns out the more passes you make, the well, the more assists, I don't know. That was a dumb point. I don't know where I was getting to that. I was basically trying to say a lot of assisted field goals tonight is a stat Brad Stevens used to point to, is like what percentage of the field goals came from assists. 41 field goals tonight, 32 assists. That's a high percentage, well over 75%. So I thought it was just a solid bounce back performance from the Celtics after what was a somewhat frustrating loss on Monday night against who are they playing? The Rockets? Yeah.
The Rockets. Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, like the assist numbers, it's obviously important for like any basketball game. That's a big part of the game. But I feel like it's also just important to this team. Like that's like I feel like sometimes we talk about like Missoula ball is just checking up shots, but like checking up threes, but Celtics ball is heavy assists. Like that's what made them look so good last year. So yeah, it made for a very pleasant Celtics fan basketball game watching experience.
Yeah, I think they're much better on offense when it's drive and kick, draw two to the ball, and make the right pass to generate that open look from three. And tonight, obviously, the Bulls helped out by doubling Tatum a bunch, and so kind of passing around that. And obviously, when all the starters are in and all the starters can make shots, it feels like an absurd strategy. We did see some first quarter Jaden Springer tonight and some first quarter Drew Peterson. So I can understand doubling Tatum when he's surrounded by Springer, Peterson, and some other guys. There's definitely some odd lineups we saw tonight, but I thought it was pretty solid performance. I think, speaking of assists, Peyton Pritchard was phenomenal tonight. I don't know if it necessarily shows up in the box score. He obviously hit that late three. That was pretty sick, just like moving around like Steph Curry. But he had 7 assists tonight. All of those, I think, came in the first half. He was really doing a great job of just finding guys. He got Derek White some open looks from three. He got Jaylen Brown some good looks. Like was really getting into the paint, probing the defense, and then dishing the ball out. And so when you speak to kind of the quality of the looks the Celtics were getting, I thought Peyton just did a really good job of distributing the basketball, and it's kind of exactly what they needed here. Grant, come on. Get a bookshelf like a real person. That is a bookshelf. It's just a cool, modern, new wave bookshelf. But it's a shelf that holds books, Grant, and I don't appreciate the sass. And it's not even the junk portion of the show, but I digress.
I gotta say shout out to Quapped on Twitter. I just saw a notification, says I'm on my phone. It is true. Jam did not introduce me tonight, and I didn't notice it, but I agree it's fucked up.
I did notice it. When you first started talking, I was like, oh, I forgot to introduce Sean. That's Sean Gauthier, super producer, live from Cleveland in a weird room with wooden shades.
I'm in a weird hotel.
Shout out to Quapped. I don't know if I'm allowed to reveal this, but I know what Quapped stands for. Do you?
I do, because you told me off air one time.
Let's keep that secret internal. If Quapp wants to reveal it, that's Quapp's story to tell. But the King, I used to love back in the day. He just all like fourth quarter stops with a Z, and that was just like his go-to tweet. So I absolutely love that. I thought another interesting portion of this game was the second quarter where we saw Tatum go to the bench, and the Tatum on the bench has been a real struggle for this team ever since Jason Tatum was invented and ever since the bench was invented. And ever since those two things came together, the Celtics have struggled to score points. And last year it was not as big of a deal because they had these kind of lineups, but this year it's kind of has popped up. That Rockets game was a big example. It was a very close game, but I think they were something like minus 13 in the 7 minutes. Tatum was on the bench. Tatum had to play the entire second half in that game. In this second quarter, the Celtics dropped 41 points. And again, it was Kristaps. Again, it was Jaylen Brown. But Jason Tatum, he went to the what's it called? The old midline there, the scorers table. That's where they stand to check in. And then they just like didn't have a stop for like in the play for like 5 minutes as the Celtics just got in this rhythm. And Tatum, after playing the entire first quarter, only played a minute 50 of the second quarter. And that's just to have you be able to extend this lead to get that 13-point win of that quarter with Jason Tatum only being playing for basically 2 minutes. I thought that was just a pretty solid sign. And so I think a lot of credit goes to Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, and Jaylen Brown, who they played the entire quarter and just were phenomenal. That's where Pritchard had a lot of the assists I was talking about. That's where Jaylen got to the free throw line, and that's where Kristaps just continued to be a sharpshooter from deep. And so I think Jay King said during the podcast, Jason Tatum needs to be better, but I think everyone around Jason Tatum needs to be better. So I thought it was just a solid sign to see them be able to kind of build that lead while he was on the bench.
And because I missed part of this game, and I feel like we haven't really talked about him a bunch. We've been I feel like I've been noticing a lot more Springer minutes, just kind of generally in the past few games. He was his plus minus was 0 tonight in a pretty big win. So it doesn't feel awesome.
Feel that way.
Yeah, like I don't know, what are we getting from Springer that we couldn't get from like Shireman? What, like, I don't know, what are you?
He's
what
a
are
dog.
you seeing in him?
He's a dog on defense. He's a linebacker. I saw someone tweet like he looks like Ed Reed out there. He will hound you defensively. Like that absolutely happens. He can actually knock down a three. He's like not a terrible shooter. He's not super consistent. He's not going to be like a guy I really want taking a lot of shots, but he knocked down a three tonight.
Yep.
In all other situations, as soon as the ball gets in his hand, he looks terrified. And that is somewhat problematic. I get Joe trying some stuff with Horford out and Hauser out as they were for this game, but I don't know why Jordan Walsh isn't necessarily getting a try. I don't know why Drew Peterson's getting some minutes. It's just been, I think Joe's just throwing stuff against the wall and seeing what sticks at this point. And so I was shocked to see kind of early Jaden Springer minutes, first half Jaden Springer minutes, just generally the amount of minutes he played in this game, which was 20. I don't think we've seen that much Jaden Springer in a game for a while, but maybe they've just seen something like want his defensive intensity out there because that's something that's been lacking. I think the issue is they have yet to find a guy who can contribute on both ends of the court. Shireman's a shooter. I don't think he's more of a G League guy right now. Walsh is also a defender, but they don't really have a two-way wing right now that they can kind of play to fill the Hauser role. So I guess you just keep giving minutes to these guys and hoping that they get better. But right now, Springer just kind of feels like he doesn't have he just is kind of scared to touch the ball in the open court. Gambling Grant ponders if Brad told Joe to give Springer more minutes to bump his trade value. I think Joe's too much of a competitive psychopath to do that during the regular season. I think Springer, if he's going to get traded, and B-Rob seemed damn confident that he was going to get traded on the last time podcast just because he makes too much money. Maybe it's a showcase, but I feel like that's just something that Joe would refuse to do and something Brad knows Joe would refuse to do and thus wouldn't ask him to do, if that makes any sense.
I mean, I could go and listen to this other podcast that I haven't listened to yet, but like, what are you getting for Springer anyway? Like
you probably
I can't imagine much.
You probably have to attach a pick if you wanted to get something back in substance, and really his contract would just be facilitation of the pick of the salary. They're above the second apron, so they need to match salaries exactly or trade for a cheaper guy, and you're probably attaching a pick to that. I haven't really seen a trade that makes sense for the Celtics or and it feels like we're almost into February. It should be prime fake trade season, but the new CBA has ruined all that, and some blame falls on Jaylen Brown as a representative of the Players Association, but not all. But I would say some. That was just an unnecessary shot at Jaylen Brown. I don't know why I took it. Maybe I'm just, I've been on Celtics Twitter for the past couple of days where seemingly there was a war on Celtics Twitter over like the last 24 hours against like the Jaylen stands and the Jason stands. I just saw tweets about it. I didn't see the actual tweets, but who knows? People need to just support the fellas out there and not take inappropriate shots at them on their podcast. That would be a bad move. Whoever did that is an idiot.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, just looking over my notes here before we get to the old junk. We got a floater from Luke Cornett. That was cool. We got some cool footwork from Luke Cornett. Kristaps Porzingis. Derek White in the first half just threw like a laser pass at Kristaps Porzingis and just kind of caught it and like just kind of sashayed it into the bucket. That was pretty cool.
That's cool.
Derek White had his floater returned in the fourth quarter, which I think that's just a solid sign of Derek White being aggressive. If he's getting into the paint and shooting the floater, I think we've seen him just get away from that. And so after having a great game against the Mavericks, pretty solid performance tonight, knocked down some threes, remained aggressive. But I think Derek White driving and getting to and just taking that floater is just a good sign for his bounce back. And so I'm trying to do the more basketball related junk before we get to the actual junk. Jason Tatum threw a dope one-handed pass, an absolute dime. And Drew Holiday got a super dope offensive rebound, immediate pass to a cutting Jason Tatum for a dunk. Did the goggle celebration, which is always cool. And that's all the basketball-related notes I have on this podcast right here.
Yeah, I've got nothing else.
All right, folks. It's time for everyone's favorite segment. Well, let's get Quap's question in here first. How do you guys feel about the defense being lackadaisical at times again tonight? Joe was frustrated, especially when he called that timeout in the third. It's been frustrating. The lackadaisicalness has been like how many guys are getting wide open threes. I thought the Bulls got a lot of good looks tonight. It just so happens, especially with Zach LaVine out, the Bulls don't have a lot of guys who can make threes. But the Bulls shot 50 threes tonight, or 49, which is a general indication that they got a bunch of good looks. And I thought I saw Jared Weiss tweeting about like the Celtics have just been bad at closing out necessarily this year, or been lackadaisical. They've taken a lackadaisical ride on the back of the daisical. Shout out MC Paul Barman. Everyone knows that song. And I think there's some validity to that because the so many guys this year have gotten their like season high and made threes and so it feels like part of the game plan is like, yeah, we're going to let some guys shoot the open shots. And then part of it is just like, we know that's the game plan, so we're not going to close out as hard on those individuals. And they're still NBA players. And so I do think it's something that needs to be tightened up. And maybe that's why you bring in a guy like Jaden Springers. Maybe it's a guy who's just going to give all out effort on the defensive end, is going to do those closeouts. And so I mean, there's always stuff that you can kind of continuously improve upon. And so I think that's definitely something that they can work on. There's always going to be some lapses in the game. And the real question is like how you necessarily respond to that. But I think it's definitely something that kind of they could tighten up. But also when you're trying some wacky lineups and, you know, throwing Peterson out there, throwing Jaden Springer out there, you kind of expect some defensive slippage. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Fair enough?
That's fair. I like the 9 steals. That feels good. You know, I feel like we talked about this before, but the Celtics have just like not been great at like steals and just like interrupting plays like early on. And so, yeah, 9 steals, pretty good. I'll take that.
They got their hands up tonight. They were creating a lot of turnovers, a lot of deflections. I just thought the Bulls were a little sloppy with the basketball, but I do think the Celtics did a much better job of bringing that kind of defensive intensity. And I do think that's the stat of the night. They Bulls have 15 turnovers, and all of those turnovers basically turned into points for the Celtics. 27 points off turnovers, 14 fast break points. Like they just did a solid job of converting those turnovers, like live ball turnovers, into points. And so that's a major reason why they won tonight. Celtics win 122-100. Shocking after a loss, the Celtics would come back with a win. Let's see how they can embarrass us against the Pelicans. Appreciate everyone who's listening out there on the YouTubes and on Twitter. If you want a more still Poddable, if you want to hear what Jay King from The Athletic or Brian B. Rob from MassLive.com think about the Celtics, thought about this game, go to Patreon.com/still Poddable. We are a Monday through Friday Boston Celtics podcast, and we have content for you every single day. And we have a fantastic chat that is just popping off during every single game. So come join us, participate in chat. It's a lot of fun it's kind of like old Twitter was, back in the day when you could like tweet and like you had the specific people and they're all talking about the same thing. And there was inside jokes and references and like people you recognized and you weren't being constantly bombarded by weird conservative propaganda. That was cool.
Or 14-year-olds with accounts just named like Celtics Rock, and they're so fucking annoying.
Or pornography. There's no pornography in chat. And like, that's good. That's not what I want from chat. Chat just is sending memes and stuff. So if you want to join, highly recommend it. Patreon.com/stillpotable. Grant is saying, how has there been no Tingus Pingus love? Grant, you missed the first 12 minutes of the show. All it was is Tingus Pingus love. And we'll get to Tingus Pingus because he's going to lead off the junk drawer. Junk drawer is where we just give our other non-basketball related observations from the Celtics game because, watching the NBA, sure, it's about the on-the-court stuff, but it's also about all the other off-the-court stuff. So let's start with Tingus Pingus. I called him the Latvian laser again because he was just knocking down crazy shots. And someone, I think it was Will F in chat, was like, actually, the Latvian laser is Davis Bertans. Hand up. I did not know he had laid claim to the name Latvian laser. But what the fuck has Davis Bertans done for me lately? What has he done to retain the nickname? If you see Kristaps Porzingis knock down 8 shots from mega deep and he's shooting from basically 9 feet above the floor and lasering it in, it only makes sense to call Tingus Pingus the Latvian laser. So by the power vested in me by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I now do declare Kristaps Porzingis to be the new Latvian laser. Utah's got a new hockey team. They should be called the Utah Hockey Jazz. There's too much Gronk on my television. I love Gronk. He doesn't need to be in 8 commercials at a time.
Wait, do you see commercials on League Pass?
Yeah, it's bunk.
I didn't see any commercials. This is my first ever time watching League Pass. I just kept getting the weird like commercial break in progress thing.
Well, see, that's the thing about League Pass. They should just show you what's going on the Jumbotron, and that's about it. But then sometimes I get a bunch of Gronk commercials, and it's very weird. And I love Gronk, but I don't like hearing Gronk talk per se. And it's just too much Gronk in my face. And so, yeah, less Gronk, please. AI has a feature, or Twitter has a feature called Grok, where you can have them draw you. And I did that, and all of them looked exactly like Kirk Cousins or Luka Doncic, and it was offensive. Bill Simmons says Jaylen Brown's too jacked, which I thought was interesting, and that was the type of dumb comment I would say, and he's the godfather of podcasting, so I just wanted to give a tip of the cap to old sports guy for just still having that fastball after all these years. Like, that is his junk drawer. That's this type of thing that I would say, and I'm not very smart. So shout out to Billy Simons.
That feels like such a baseball take. Like I remember saying that about like Benintendi when he came back after the World Series and he was like too jacked and slowed down his. Jaylen Brown today just like sent another man at least 3 feet away from him to put up a shot. I'm not sure that him being enormous is a problem right now.
I mean, it was the issue last year when Jason Tatum had that shooting struggle in like the playoffs, the 12 pounds of muscle. And so maybe old Billy Simons is onto something. Who knows? At one point, Kristaps Porzingis, I think he hit his 6'3", and Drew Carter said, the unicorn is shooting planes tonight, and I don't know what that means. I don't know what's going on there, but I don't know. We should talk about that, Drew.
I don't like that.
No, it's not great. To return to a topic me and you have previously discussed this season, Patrick Williams is not bald. Don't ever say that he was bald. He's just got a different coloration on his hair right in the middle, but it's not a bald guy. Don't put in the paper he's bald. Derek White's a terrible halftime interview, and I felt bad for Abby Chin for having to interview him during halftime. There's just nothing to say there. I don't know why we do it. I don't know who on the team would be a good interview at this point. But it's just tough stuff. I don't know.
Give me Al Horford or Luke Cornett every time. I think those Al Horford on the bench didn't play. Interview Al. That's what I want to hear from. That's
fair. Yeah, they would probably give better perspective on the game. I think that makes sense. Let's see here. Scal was talking tonight. He probably had 4 Shabuzi mentions. Scal's just really getting into Shabuzi, tipsy by Shabuzi now. Which I thought when Shabuzi played opening night, it was about 5 months too late on the Shabuzi train. But I love that Scal's yes, get Shabuzi at the halftime show. Get Shabuzi at the Super Bowl. And then they were talking about Sabrina Carpenter, Espresso. I just love that Scal and Drew are about 6 months behind basic pop culture trends. It's just fun. At some point, there was a bad call on Jason Tatum, and Joe Mazzulla was just asking the refs, "What the hell's wrong with you guys?" And I think that's a good question to ask at all times. And then last 2 things. At some point, Jaylen Brown was fouled, and he fell down kind of near the Celtics bench, and Wick Grossbeck stood up, but to act like he was going to help him up, but didn't help him out at all. And I think it was just him trying to show off his cool leather jacket. And it's there's a weird age curve where I don't feel like I could wear a leather jacket, but I feel like as soon as you get graying hair, then the leather jacket can return to you as an older gentleman to kind of recapture your youth. And I don't know if Wick Grossbeck has gray hair, but he's definitely of now it's acceptable again to wear a leather jacket age. And he was just showing it off tonight. He was never going to pick up Jaylen Brown. So for those unfamiliar with Still Poddable chat, Celtics win a game. We got a lot of pets in chat. People post their victory cats. Grant is right. Back when I had my handlebar mustache, I can absolutely rock a leather jacket, but that's more of a ass-kicking version of Jam Packard than one is a day-to-day version. But back to the victory cats, victory dogs, victory pets. It's fun. People are celebrating with their pets in chat. One user, Joey Mack, I don't know if you saw this, has a victory chicken, and that just blew my mind. It seemed like it was inside the house, but I didn't know we had victory chickens. And I say, keep posting that victory chicken. That reminds me of a famous YouTube video that I don't think I can respond, but keep blank that chicken. Just Google it on YouTube. You'll find it. It's a good one. But well, now I'm distracted. I'm just going to press the button. Keep posting in chat, folks.
The most ridiculous thing about doing this from my phone is that every time you play a video, it just mutes entirely. So I can't hear the junk drawer music right now. I just see the animation in front of me, and it's just pure silence for that 3 seconds.
What was that? I couldn't hear you over the junk drawer music. Before we go, Sean, you are in Cleveland. somehow I missed it when you opened the blinds to your weird hotel room during this podcast. But tell us about Cleveland. Give us a short. I'll give you a 60-second review of Cleveland.
Cleveland is better than Dallas. I think that's a low bar, but they did pass it. So shout out to Cleveland. I especially appreciated all the people smoking cigarettes on the train on the way from the airport to downtown. That rocked. The food.
I'm shocked they even have a train.
Yeah, I did not expect a train from the airport, but there was one.
Such
so that
an
was
East
nice.
Coast elitist take. It's like trains in a city in the Midwest.
The stadium's also cool. Shout out Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. That place is it's pretty cool. I did have like a classic Boston sports fan reaction to one thing though. So they like recently redid the like outside of the arena itself to like kind of enclose it. And they put up this display that is cool where they took their like the court from like their championship and like put the court on the outside like before you walk in like the tunnel to get into the actual like the concourse. So the court itself is like up and it's got the scuff marks and stuff and they've got like a ring and a trophy in there and I was like, man, that's cool. And then I was like, one ring, huh? Shit. It's like, imagine just not a bunch of banners, just you got the one ring, the one trophy, the whole court up for it. And I was like, it is cool, but
I mean, you got to give them credit for using the resources available to them. They have one championship court and they're going to use it to the best of their ability. So shout out to the Conseco Fieldhouse or whatever it's called. We don't have to give a shout out to a mortgage company. That's fine by me. But solid Cleveland review, solid win for the Boston Celtics. They win 122-100. Back winning again. They're now 33-15. Let's see if they can do it again against the lowly Pelicans. For God's sake, let's win 2 basketball games in a row. You know what? Let's win 3 basketball games in a row. And so that's going to do it for us, folks. Jay King and B-Rob will be back tomorrow to give their takes on the game, and then we'll be back. I will be live in the building for the Celtics playing the Philadelphia 76ers live in Philadelphia. And so look forward to that. Hopefully there'll be a 3-game winning streak there. But we appreciate everyone tuning in out there on the YouTubes, out there on Twitter. If you enjoy the show, like us, subscribe on Twitter or subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/stillpoddable. And you too can be an Atari Democrat. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. And we'll be back tomorrow with more Still Poddable.
Still Poddable, Still Poddable. The Boston Celtics Still Poddable, Still Poddable.
Oh, yeah.
Slow down from eating and drinking and all that wild stuff.